Hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Thank you so much for joining us this evening to discuss the breaking Kentucky political news of the week. We're going to touch base on a few stories, some things related to Project 2025. If you've heard about that, we've got a Kentucky connection we're going to explore. We're going to talk a bit about a Kentucky politician we all know who's been mentioned in the news quite a bit this past couple of weeks of craziness. And then we got a book review coming your way. Really excited then to have a great interview lined up. We're speaking with Randy Cravens, who is now the official Democratic candidate for Kentucky's 6th district. Last on this show back in May as one of the many fine candidates seeking the Democratic nomination. He won that race. Now we're going to check in on how life is treating him on the campaign trail as he seeks to defeat Andy Big Banks Barr. And then finally, we're going to close out with an important call to action. But first, are you there ready to help turn Kentucky purple? I think if you've hunted through literally billions of websites, podcasts, YouTube videos to find us, little old Progress Kentucky, I think it's safe to say you agree with us. You think things should be better in Frankfurt, in D.C., wherever politicians come together to decide how to spend your tax dollars. Despite the challenges facing Kentucky, we've had some highlights. We rejected Amendment 2 to keep abortion protections in our state constitution for all the good that did. We are elected Andy Beshear, so good work us. But it's clear there's still lots of work to do in our state to win better electoral outcomes for our Commonwealth. And that is where you come in. Unless you want your tax dollars siphoned away from public schools and sent to unaccountable religious schools or just kicked back to rich folks. Nah. Between now and this November, 118 days from now, we're going to be working for those electoral outcomes in Kentucky. We hope you'll support Progress Kentucky in our campaign for a more compassionate Commonwealth. So make a contribution right now via our secure online website, Act Blue, to turn Kentucky purple. $5, $50, $500. It all adds up. So let's check in with our co-host. Let us know who you are, where you are, and what you're protesting today. You there on the interwebs, we mean you too. Let's hear what you're protesting. Feel free to put it in the chat while we're sharing ours. Mine says, I'm Aaron, coming to you from Childsburg, which is, of course, a lovely community on the outskirts of Lexington. My sign says, save democracy, vote for the old guy, not the lying criminal. Let's check in with the rest of our co-hosts. Kimberly, what do you got? Kimberly. So we lose Kim. We've totally lost Kimberly. Usually it's just a mute issue. It is definitely not that right now. So hopefully we will see Kimberly again. But we have Chris. Hey, Chris.
Hey. Chris Priest coming to you from Berea, Kentucky, and I'm in a different room than usual. This is my wife's study because currently I am making chocolate in my room, and there's a very loud melanger just stone grinding cocoa nibs. So as far as my protest sign today, it says stop the corruption and stop this MAGA Supreme Court. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, this Supreme Court, man. Whoo. Stone grinding cocoa nibs, not a term I was expecting to hear on Progress Kentucky's Kernels of Truth, but that's so exciting. And if folks have not had any of the Good Deeds chocolate that Chris Priest makes, you need to hunt it down and get yourself some. If you like amazing artisanal chocolate. If you don't like that, do not get this because you are going to be sadly disappointed. But it is truly phenomenal chocolate. So, and I did want to just say thank you because if you watched the show recently, we took a little break last week for the July 4th Independence Day. Mostly, I think, just to mourn the Supreme Court decisions. I don't know, but the week before, we did get together in person, which we had encouraged folks, listeners, to come on out for. So we got together at the West Six Farm, which is a great spot if you've not been out there. West Six Farm in Frankfurt, just peaceful, amazing, fantastic spot. And Chris brought some of his chocolates to share with the rest of the Progress Kentucky outgoing board members and some incoming board members. The new board members, I am not going to announce today because I feel like I should probably tell them that they've actually been officially brought onto the board before we announce it. But
just do it here. Make it official right here. Just do it.
I do feel like people should get a heads up before they're called out on a public, if relatively low profile show. But at any rate, it was wonderful to see everyone in person and wonderful to eat Chris's chocolates. And it was sad to say goodbye to Betty and Doug. But I think we now have our third co-host back with us. Kimberly, are you there? What's your protest sign say today, and where are you coming from? And say it quickly if we're about to lose your internet connection again. Oh no, are you frozen? All right, well,
I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Now we can hear you.
I'm having technical difficulties here in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm Kimberly Cecil Jones, and I'm coming to you live in Kentucky. And my protest.
We are definitely having some connection issues, Kimberly. I am sorry to say. So yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do about it, but
Did you hear me? Did you hear
I did not hear a protest sign. You kind of froze up for a minute again, and you got a little bit slowed down.
I said my protest sign says you better vote for Biden. I don't care how you feel about it. You better vote for Biden.
Gotcha. Yeah. That all checks out. We have everyone's protest.
Did you all hear me? Did you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna roll into news of the week, and I have got story one to start with. Very interesting, and this was so you all have heard. I hope you all heard about Heritage Project's the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025. Well, there is a Kentucky-based support effort to make sure it's successful. So in case you've missed it, the right-wing Heritage Foundation, not content in simply helping purchase and corrupt the Supreme Court. If you haven't heard of the Chevron doctrine repeal, look that up and kiss our environment goodbye. With their SCOTUS takeover complete, the Heritage Foundation are now eyeing the executive branch, working hard and strategically to advance their agenda in a second Trump term. Notable contributors to Project 2025 include former Trump administration officials Ben Carson, Ken Cuccinelli, and then it's been praised by a number of his allies like Senator Mike Lee from Utah. It is led by Paul Dans, who actually served as the chief of staff at the U.S. Office of Personnel Management under Trump. Trump's campaign spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt, is also featured in one of the project's videos. Definitely worth checking this out, spreading the word about this chilling action agenda to take advantage of a second Trump term. Ideally, a term, in their eyes, a term without the chaos and ineffectiveness that marked his first term. True believers are stepping in to check Trump's worst instincts and help professionalize his willingness to grant the hard right and their libertarian billionaire backers everything they've invested in, including cutting overtime protections for 4.3 million workers, stopping efforts to lower prescription drug prices, limiting access to food assistance, which an average of more than 40 million people and 21.6 million households rely on monthly. Eliminate the Head Start early education program, which serves over 1 million kids annually. Cut American Rescue Plan programs that have created or saved 220,000 jobs. Restrict access to medical abortion. Push more than the 33 million people enrolled in Medicare towards Medicare Advantage and other worse private options. Expose nearly 400,000 children in foster care to risk of increased discrimination. Deny students in 25 states and Washington, D.C. access to student loans because their state provides in-state tuition to undocumented immigrants. Roll back civil rights protections across multiple fronts, including cutting diversity, equity, and inclusion related programs, LGBTQ plus rights in healthcare, education, and workplaces. Really, this is not all of it. This is like hundreds of pages. This is just the kind of top lines of how bad Project 2025 is. Thank you, Heritage Foundation. This list is actually thanks to Democracy Forward. We'll put that in the show notes if you want to go through it yourself. And there's lots more in that kind of sideshow of horrors. But of course, Trump says he's never heard of it, doesn't know the people pushing it, which criminal, liar, not really surprising because none of that stuff is especially popular. All the things I just rattled off, these are not popular policies. None of them, I think, are in fact included in the GOP platform or proposed platform that they'll be voting on next week. If folks recall, for Trump's reelection, they did not even have a platform. It was just whatever Trump wanted to do. I think this time they have a platform. My hunch is the reason that, Trump put together, or Trump's team put something together. Obviously, he doesn't write. But the reason they put that together is because Project 2025 exists. And without them saying, no, this is what we're going to do, everyone's going to look at Project 2025 and go, oh, that's what they're going to do, which it's what they want to do, just to be clear. The platform's just a public-facing document for the campaign. Anyway.
Hello? Hello? Okay. Hey, Randy. Kimberly, you're back? Is Aaron back? Well, okay, interesting. So, just to continue the discussion on Project 2025, a friend of the show, Michelle Branscombe, made a Facebook group called Resist Project 2025, which is blown up. And that's really to gather people around so they can make local groups and just read the document for yourselves and realize the real horror it is instead of just relying on media folks summarizing it for you, and then also to help you organize with people there and try to get the word out about how terrible and frightening this document is. I'm in the group there and look forward to really going through the document myself as well. I have not gone through the whole thing, parts of it, and then just reading a lot of summaries that I've seen online. But it is a whopping 900 and some pages, so it'll take a little while. We'll probably break it down into sections and go from there. Aaron was talking about Trump trying to distance himself from Project 2025, which he sent out probably the most coherent and good grammar, well grammarized, however you phrase that, sentence or tweet that he's ever put out. So I seriously doubt that he even wrote that about trying to say that he doesn't know who Project 2025 is and all this stuff. But so many of his cabinet members helped write this thing. And I'm sure he's going to be bringing a lot of not necessarily cabinet members, but like campaign staff and staff in the White House. And so I'm sure a lot of those people are coming back, considering he has to fire so many and then has to replace them with other people that he doesn't barely knows or whatever. And so, these are the people who are going to be helping him make policy decisions. And we know now the document that they're going to be pulling from. This nightmarish hellscape of a document that wants to turn us into, an authoritarian state with no regulations for anything. And, like Aaron said, goodbye to environmental regulations. The Supreme Court essentially has gutted our Congress's ability to delegate power by overturning the Chevron doctrine. So that doesn't just affect the EPA, that affects every government agency that Congress delegates power to, because Congress often just states some broad or passes some broad law like, give us clean air, make sure children aren't being abused or whatever. And then it'll go to whatever specific agency it's supposed to go to, and they will, further define what that is. And now judges are going to be supposed to be the experts on everything. And we have to rely on their judgment. Instead, previously, under the Chevron doctrine, judges had to rely on these government agencies to rule on whatever the case may be. So if it's related to the environment, they talk to the EPA. Now they don't have to talk to the EPA. They can just judge based on however they feel, their lack of knowledge or inside of knowledge, if they're into that sort of thing.
So I got to apologize for the computer shutdown. I have no idea where you lost me exactly. If I hear you discussing the Chevron decision and SCOTUS, but I was talking a little bit about the challenge of Project 2025 and Democracy Forward's assessment of it. Really some frightening stuff. And I want to just underscore that there is in fact a very clear Kentucky tie to this story, right? So there is a small group based in Bardstown, I believe, where this seasoned political operative, Tom Jones, and his American Accountability Foundation are in fact digging into the backgrounds, the social media posts, and the commentary of key high-ranking government employees, starting in the Department of Homeland Security, and they're relying on tips from Tom Jones and his network of conservative activists, including conservative federal employees, kind of ratting on one another, I suppose. But they are looking to publish their findings online. They've got a $100,000 grant from the Heritage Foundation to do the work, and the goal is to post 100 names of government workers to a website to show a potential new administration, Trump's folks, who might be standing in the way of their efforts to implement Project 2025. So that's chilling, right? So Project 2025 is a horrible thing. But the idea that they're actually ensuring that they have got the the kind of runway to implement it, and that they won't have bureaucrats standing in the way, kind of career bureaucrats who just know how government works and do their job with these different agencies. They're not political appointees to kind of implement the political views of their boss. But this is, I think, really alarming, and a lot of folks have pointed to things like McCarthyism as a contrast to this effort. So this is something that we're watching. We're very interested in it. I think Project 2025 is a real threat. Obviously, it's if you look at what Trump's doing right now, they've got their platform, which doesn't say much about Project 2025, but it has some themes that echo certainly. But the platform is very much a public facing document to help him get elected and try to kind of sand off the rough edges of the actual agenda. So, if you want to know what these guys will do, look at Project 2025. If you want to point to the type of people that will implement it, you can look at Tom Jones' Accountability Project, which is just really a very troubling new development in the right-wing march toward authoritarianism, and will use what SCOTUS has done to give them the ability to implement as much of it as humanly possible. So I don't know, Chris. Any thoughts about this accountability? I mean, it's really just a chilling accountability project that this Kentuckian Tom Jones is putting together.
Your word "chilling" is accurate, and it definitely harkens back to what you called it, the McCarthy era, and just it blows me away of how organized these folks are. And strategic in their mission, and how so many people just hop on board, and these people are very motivated into implementing their agenda. And I it's scary, and we have to be motivated in stopping this. I don't think it. Certainly voting is one thing, but also getting out there and letting other people know about stopping this. So we have to organize more and better to make sure that this does not happen.
Yeah, for sure. Kimberly, I don't know if you've heard much of that, but anything you want to offer?
Yes. Number one, this Project 2025 is really an asinine attempt to control, as usual. The other side likes to control everything. This is not the Republican Party of what we knew, something totally different. Also, I believe that this is not only just chilling, this is terrorizing, because all the efforts of DE&I, that's diversity, equity, and inclusion, for myself as a Black woman, uh, anyone that is not of Anglo-Saxon descent needs to be terrified at what's happening. This is one reason why I had to stop looking at that Handmaid's Tale on Hulu, because it just seems so real, and these things can happen in our country. Although we try to bury our heads, we need to understand that something major is happening that will pull this entire country apart.
Yeah, no, for sure. Super chilling. So I think we're going to move on to the next story. We're a little bit behind time because of our technical difficulties, which I do apologize for. Chris, I think you've got something you want to share with the group.
Yeah. So normally, the past several weeks when I've been on here, I would share a positive news story. That was a little bit hard to come by this week, considering what's happened with SCOTUS and litany of other things. So often I kind of assess, like, what is the most important thing to address immediately, like to get to the heart of the problems of America in general. So, which is, me sitting back and thinking that's one of the reasons why I ran a few years ago. I'm running for city council here in Berea this cycle. But to get to the heart of our problems as a nation, it's really corruption. The reason that our elected officials are paying attention more to corporations and the wealthy is because they're able to funnel money to them, so they can use that for their campaign, and also they do lots of other things. So in thinking about corruption, I started reading Peter Schweizer's Secret Empires, and it really I'm still in process of reading it, but But I just want to highlight how the corruption is going on. Like, certainly there's the cartoonish corruption that we know about in terms of insider trading, which is ridiculous. We can see on the face of that that's happening, and that's got to stop. And there's laws against that that just aren't being really enforced. Uh, there's also laws, for about politicians and the SCOTUS judges about not receiving, or not necessarily not receiving gifts and things from people, but certainly they need to report that on their taxes. And if they don't do that, then that's a violation in itself. So the corruption is somewhat legal, but if they don't file it properly, that's not legal. So, and so some of the corruption, the more devious corruption that's happening is, say, you are a U.S. senator, and this, corporation wants to get you to vote a certain way. They may offer your best friend a very lucrative job in their company or somewhere else. And so it's an indirect kickback, or they may offer it to your offspring. There's and so people are getting kind of paid off in an indirect way, and so those are the more devious ways that it's happening. There's also some cartoonish ways that we see in the media that does get addressed, and also like foreign dignitaries can can try to buy a politician in the same way. They can funnel money to one of their friends, and this kind of thing has to stop. And this is the reason why the polls show that we are, as regular people, not being heard by our elected officials. They are representing the wealthy elites and the corporations and the foreign dignitaries, anybody who's funneling significant money to them, and then not representing the regular people who want and need the change that's going on. So that's my bit about what I've been reading. And so, what do y'all think about that kind of corruption?
Yeah, I mean, I think political corruption is, absolutely one of the key pieces that like gets people to tune out of politics generally. I think it is the thing that people go, oh well, they're all the same because they're all corrupt, and there's always examples on both sides of the aisle of corrupt acts. And I think obviously I'm liberally inclined here, and I tend to see the other side leading the charge on a lot of this. I will say I think this current SCOTUS has been completely bought off by billionaires, and really their work product, I think, underscores that the billionaires got what the heck they wanted. So it's something that it's a point of concern and disillusionment and gives people excuses to not pay attention, not get involved. Is it the thing that is like the most problematic element of our political system? I don't know. There's so many problematic elements of our political system. People not being actually represented, the gerrymandering that's happening, just the two-party system in general not really delivering for regular humans. It's hard to say, but yeah, I'm glad you shared that with us. And I think some of the kind of finer points of corruption and how it works, we should know about it, because we should keep an eye on it, and we should tell a story about it when it arises, for sure. But yeah, Kimberly.
I agree with everything that you said, Aaron. And I'm glad that you're reading this book and giving us that insight, Chris, because we desperately need it to know at all aspects where corruption is. Um, and so many people are guilty of it. That's the thing. So many people are guilty of it. Promising jobs, like you said, to your children, to your best friend, any kind of way that they can get you to get in on their deals or whatever you want to call them, they will do.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure of that. Yeah.
Big money, he who has the gold makes the rules. That's the real golden rule, right? All right. So, Kimberly, I think you've got a story you want to share with us. Let's go ahead and do that. We're a little bit behind time. So let's try to catch up a little bit and get to our guest.
Well, I always appreciate any time that I can talk about our wonderful, amazing governor, Andy Bashir. And on Tuesday night, in a high profile interview on CNN, our Kentucky governor, Andy Bashir, got into the discussion. He was appearing opposite Pamela Brown. And I didn't even know this, but she's a Kentucky native and daughter of the late governor, John Y. Brown Jr. I had no idea about that. Um, our governor was honest in his negative evaluation of Biden's debate night, and he did not recoil from talks of Bashir becoming the vice presidential nominee alongside current Vice President Kamala Harris, also a soror of mine, AKA. And if she were to replace Biden on the ticket this year, our governor said that I think we've got to all be upfront and honest that what we saw in the debate, it was rough. It was a very, very rough night. And regardless of polls that you see, it's going to hurt the campaign. He also couched his comments in praise of the president's administration, in particular his involvement in getting funding for the Brent Spence Bridge, a key commercial and traffic vein connecting Kentucky and Ohio. But our governor really supports Joe Biden and Joe Biden's administration. We did see that Biden, who is now 81 years old, sometimes trail off and struggle to speak coherently. But the governor deferred questions on whether or not Biden ought to run again, saying that the decision on continuing or not will fall on Biden and his family. But our governor did preview some of the questions he and his colleagues were privy to. And actually, he's saying that he thinks that the American people would respond positively to it and that the president has formed a relationship of empathy and direct communication to the American people. So our governor is down for whatever is going to be best for the country, but his main thing is that we're taking care of Kentucky.
Yeah.
And he said
Well,
something that was really funny.
Wouldn't it be nice to see
He said,
Kamala
if you
Harris
got
be top of
two,
the
if you
ticket
got
and
two,
Bashir be VP?
I don't know, Kimberly. Could you
it would be amazing
envision?
to see, but we wouldn't win.
We wouldn't win. All right.
I mean,
well,
that would be wonderful to see, but we wouldn't win. We would not win. I don't know why America hates women so much. All the other countries, South Korea, the Philippines, Germany, everywhere has had, the
Mexico.
UK, they have had female leaders. This is supposed to be the home of the free and the brave, and we can't even get a woman elected to become president of the United States. And a lot of times it's our own women that don't vote for women. Sorry to say, but it's true.
Well, we haven't done it yet, Kimberly. That's not to say we can't do it. That's not
I
to say
don't know. I
won't
mean,
do it.
everything's messed up because they didn't put Hillary in. Seriously, everything is messed up because they didn't put Hillary in. It was an asinine, that's my new word for today, asinine attempt of corruption, of whatever Russia and China did to get Donald Trump in office. We're now finding out it was bogus. That election belonged to Hillary Clinton, but nobody's really talking about it because why? She's sitting back with a cocktail on a daily basis saying, I told you so.
That is true. She's got
Yeah.
a whole book of I told you so, I was right. And yeah, so we are all right. So we're late. So we got to move on because we have to get to our guest. Randy Cravens been so generous with his time. He is, of course, the Democratic candidate for Kentucky's 6th congressional district. 19 counties, I think, now after redistricting. It's the Bluegrass District. It's Madison County. It's Fayette County. It's a lot of great counties, and this is the great candidate who is looking to take on Andy Barr. So thank you so much for joining us, Randy. Appreciate you having you back on the show.
No, thanks for having me. It's always good to be here with you guys.
Well, from back in the days, you were a write-in candidate because somebody who will remain nameless could not take on Jeff Young. You set a high watermark for write-ins because people knew that Jeff Young was not actually the guy they wanted. Now you're officially on the ballot. That'll be exciting to see. How is the campaign trail treating you?
It's been great so far. We had a real tight primary, and I'm thrilled that I came out on top. But I said it during the debate that we had here on Kernels of Truth that I would be happy if any of us got elected, and that's still the truth. It could have gone one of 3, 4, 5 different ways, and it just so happened to fall my way. But if one of my opponents had been elected, I'd be right here in the comment section supporting them right now. So just happy to be here as the standard bearer for the party and looking forward to going forward.
All right. So we did not get to spend as much time in that last segment as I would have liked. So I'm going to ask you. So say Joe Biden calls you. You pick up the phone. He wants your insights. What are you going to tell him?
Well, my insights on the whole situation right now is this. Joe Biden was elected in the primary in the state of Kentucky. I was at the convention in Louisville. We assigned delegates to Joe Biden to go to Chicago and to select him to be our candidate for the presidency. The cake's been baked. You can't shove it back into the Betty Crocker box at this point without making a mess. And that's where we're at. Now, whether do I think Joe Biden is the right candidate or not, who's to say? Kamala Harris is an excellent vice president and would do well to represent us, but there's probably electoral difficulties there. I mean, if we just got to be honest about it, Kimberly's absolutely right. And we're too late in the game to select anyone else. So what we have right now is a situation where we have to support the elected candidate for our party, and that is President Biden, and I support him 100%. And if worse, is to happen, and situations change as that goes down the road, then we have to fall back on the cabinet and the vice president to exercise their rights under the 25th Amendment. And that's what's set out in the Constitution to handle this situation. But until that time, we have a president and a candidate for the presidency for another term who has governed over a recovery from a global pandemic. He has presided over an economy that has doubled the stock market in the last 4 years. People's retirement accounts are up. Unemployment has been at or below 4% for the last couple of years. We are getting inflation under control. It's not there yet. Interest rates are still too high, but they're going to be trending downward once the economy gets into kind of a steady state. And we get out of this imbalance of supply and demand. But once it happens, we're at the helm of a healthy economy, leading a global economy that is not doing as well as we are, quite frankly. So with all of those factors and so many other things, from reclassification of marijuana to the global economy, to handling of foreign affairs and reasserting our place on the global stage. So much progress has been made in the last 4 years that you'd be hard pressed to vote against Joe Biden. Age is a factor. It's going to be, but we have to let the systems that we have in place handle that and facilitate that if that occurrence happens. That's what they're there for. And until then, Joe Biden's our candidate.
All right. Randy Cravens sounded like a bit of a politician on that one. Good answer though. Like you point to lots of really good stuff that Biden has done for sure. The Biden administration's done it. I will not, reject any of those things. I will celebrate them all. I think, in terms of proving their worth, and that administration deserves a second term because they've delivered for America in very real, very impactful ways, and there's more to be done, which they are committed to doing. That said, you can't tell me I didn't see what I saw, and that was a horrible debate that showed the guy was not, up to the challenge. Obviously, I think people have said, the worst debate performance in history he was, lined up against the guy who gave the second worst debate performance in history, but there was still such a delta between them. You can only talk about the one thing, right? So it's really unfortunate that we're in this situation. I think, I will give him all sorts of props for what he's accomplished, but I'm furious that this is where we are, because that was not a fair primary. If there was legitimate actual candidates who raised their hand, but Joe Biden cleared the field, so we didn't get a chance to see Gretchen Whitmer versus Josh Shapiro versus Gavin way too slick Newsom. We didn't get to see that because he cleared the field, because he's like, guys, I got it, and he clearly does not have it. And the Joe Biden we saw last week, or whatever the hell it was the youngest Joe Biden we're gonna get. And so that's a problem, people. And he is not. I'm just going to say it. I like this administration. I am proud of the work they have done. I have supported lots of it. I'm excited about but I just don't think the guy can win. I think he's too old. It's not about us. Yeah, we're gonna walk through fire to vote for him, but we're not the deciders. Kentucky is still going to go to Trump no matter what happens, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah, and
the people in the middle, those tiny little few margins and a handful of states, all the states are trending in the wrong direction. The swing states are going in the wrong direction right now as people process what they saw. So and it is the stakes are incredibly high. Like we just talked about Democracy 20 or Project 2025, and holy shit, that is a terrifying situation to see those guys actually serious and getting things done. The chaos and ineffectiveness that marked the Trump first term, I think very well could be gone in the second term, because he's got real people who are really committed to taking advantage of this opportunity. So I'm going to stop talking because you're the guest. But
well, one thing I would say to that, Aaron, and your points are very valid, and you're right. When it comes to Kentucky, we're not the deciding factor.
No.
But what it does do for the down ballot candidates such as myself is it allows us to state our case as this: regardless of what happens, if you are a Democrat, a Republican, a Trump voter, a Biden voter, if you are an independent, I don't really care at this point in Kentucky who you vote for president, because right now we're facing an existential crisis as a nation. I talk in my campaign about building a future for our kids and making the votes that, we might not see the outcome of, but are critical to the future that we want to set forward for our kids and our grandkids and generations beyond. We need a firewall to protect against this. And that firewall is the Congress. It is the House of Representatives and the Senate. And if you are a Republican in Lexington and you've never voted for a Democrat before, or you're a Republican in Flemingsburg and you've never voted for a Democrat before, and you swore to yourself, I will never, ever vote for one of those demon rats in my life, now's the time that I'm going to ask you to make an exception. And that's going to be the point of my town halls that I have across the 6th district as we go forward towards the election in November, is to invite everyone, Republican, independent, or otherwise, to come out and talk to me. We might not agree on a lot. We're probably not going to agree on 50, 60%. I'm a centrist to center left kind of candidate. I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea on the right and quite frankly on the left, probably. But at this moment in time, we have a case to be made that we need to stand forward as a firewall to this horrendous Project 2025 that's been put out there. We have to protect it for the American people writ large, not as Democrats, not as Republicans, but as Kentuckians and people that are afraid for our future and for the future of our families and our descendants. It is that existential of a crisis. We are not only going to unroll whatever progress has been made in the last 4 years, we're going to take us back to 18 and 1900s, early 1900s theology. Just take a look at repeal of no-fault divorce, repeal of the 19th Amendment, women's suffrage going out the window. These are all things that are being mentioned, which seem outrageous. But when we look at it going forward, we have to think that even if they're firing a hose of sewage at us, which is what they're doing right now with this 900-page document, if only 50 pages of it come true, we're screwed as a country. We have no hope. And they're putting out 900 and some odd pages so we can cherry pick out one or two issues to fight against, and they're going to slam us with the rest. So right now, we need to go forward united as Democrats, as the adults in the room. And even if we have centrist or, non-far right Republicans, which there are very few of left, but if they're out there, we need to band together and say, look, we need to put a stop to this. We need to protect the America that we know and love. We can make America great again by bringing back respect and dignity and caring for one another and being able to, go to a high school football game together without wanting to kill each other just because we're talking about politics. That's the future that we need to work towards. And that's the future that I'm going to represent in the campaign. And that's the future that I hope to bring up in regards to our local and state candidates as well, because they have just as much skin in the game on this as I do. Because where the rubber meets the road funding wise and actual activity wise, that's at the state and local level. And we need to coordinate our messages together to ensure that we're fighting this in a united front.
Yeah,
so
that's great. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so definitely we need to be a firewall against Project 2025. But there's this radical system or part of our government that is currently trying to help enact or lay the groundwork for it being enacted, and that's our MAGA SCOTUS. And I'm curious, when you get to Washington, what's your game plan in addressing these radical judges?
Well, it depends on if I'm joining a majority Republican Congress or a majority Democratic Congress and what the makeup of the Senate looks like. The Senate's going to be a tough haul. If we can have a 50-50 Senate with a Democratic presidency, we're okay, as long as we hold on to the House. As long as we regain the House. If we can do that, it's one of two situations. If we can do that, then we have to move forward with expanding the court. We have no choice. We have to have a justice for each circuit. That means expanding the court to 13 justices, doing it immediately, getting those justices Senate confirmed and getting them in place with a Democratic president from day one. And also talking to the existing justices. Justice Sotomayor is getting up there in years, as are a couple of the other justices on the other side. You need to have that conversation with them to see how long they want to stick around for. Because the next step after that is instituting term limits. It has to be done. I think it's been made plain with the federal judge in Alaska that just resigned today for sexual misconduct, and others, that lifetime appointments to federal courts are a loser across the board. When we have Reagan appointees and Bush appointees still deciding cases in federal courts for situations that were not even dreamt of when they joined the bench. It's time to make a change. So we need to institute term limits across the board, not just on the Supreme Court, but also on Congress. But I think the political climate will allow for that Supreme Court limitation to be put into place, even if it means suspending the filibuster to do that, along with the restoration of women's rights and reproductive health.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a very rational kind of and fairly elegant solution to the horrible situation we find ourselves, right? It's going to take a lot of work, and you'll hear a lot of cries from the right about court packing or whatever, but it's clear that they stole 2 Senate seats, and what they've done through their corrupt acts and purchased justices is doing incredible damage to our country, which we've discussed it quite a bit. All right, Kimberly, any questions for Randy?
Yes, Randy, and I think I saw you at the convention. However, my hair was different. I just thought I'd be blonde. They say they have more fun or something, but I don't think so.
Blonde is a wonderful look for you, just so you know.
Thank you. Just temporarily. First question. If you are to make it to the U.S. Congress, along with our good friend Morgan McGarvey, love him, love him, love him. He's doing major things, for the 3rd district, which I'm in. But one thing that a lot of people in my community would like to know, how would you vote about reparations that are due and owed to Black Americans here in this country?
That's a good question, Kim, and it's a very valid one. Reparations, this is another point of a national reconciliation that we need to come to. It's all going to depend on how they're constructed, what form they take. If it's strictly financial, if it's through grants for education, the devil is in the details. And we need to make sure that whatever solution is arrived at is done equitably and with an eye towards the responsibility that we have to ensure the future viability of the community and to ensure that particular safeguards are put in place to prevent a slide back through issues like Project 2025 to days of old, where they're going to run into issues like they did in the past. But reparations, I think, are certainly valid and on the table to be discussed, and it's all going to come down to how those are structured. I certainly would be interested and be open to being in the conversation about that and ensuring that can take place, because there are many, many avenues that we could address beyond financial reparations, direct payments to ensure the viability of the African American community going forward. And just one that pops to mind is properly funding our HBCUs, ensuring that scholarships are available direct from the federal government for those historically Black colleges and universities like K-State. K-State's is not in the 6th; it's now in the 1st because of the Cumber Hook, but it is a land grant university. It is there to provide a good, solid education for the African American community and others throughout our community. And I think we need to do everything that we can possible from the federal level to ensure its viability and its stability going forward.
So are you saying, Randy, that you do believe that Black Americans do deserve what the country promised?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we cannot function as a nation without a national time of reconciliation. We, as descendants, were not directly involved, but we certainly have lived with the privilege and the responsibilities that came with the actions of our forebears. That, I think, is plainly obvious. Now, again, how we need to pursue that stability and that availability of equality and equitable representation and equitable access to all government institutions going forward for the African American community. Again, it comes down to the details of how it's structured. But I do acknowledge and accept that there was an original sin in the creation of our nation, and that's one that cannot be denied. There were many original sins, not least of which, and top of the list, which would have been slavery. But we have a debt that we still owe to our Native American community, many members of which live in the 6th Congressional District, and who I would be proud to represent. We also need to ensure that our tribal First Nations are cared for and taken care of, and ensure that they have the access to the same facilities that everyone else does here. It's something that we've always fallen short on, and there's no time like the present to rectify that.
So in DE&I efforts, a lot of Black Americans are finding that the struggles that we have protested against, the struggles that we still endure, have been put in the back of the bus, so to speak, to other causes such as the trans movement, our LGBTQIA plus sisters and brothers. How would you bring it up so that Black Americans in your congressional district would feel more comfortable voting for you? There are top people that have told us not to even vote. We want to see some actual change. We want to see some actual things happen, because everything seems to be going backwards.
And you deserve to see that change, and you deserve to not have to ask that question. One thing that I believe is true and fundamental is this: no matter who you believe in, or what faith you have, or if you have none at all, we were all created equally. We were created by whatever creator is out there, of the same material, the same stuff. We descend from different families, but we are here in this time and place together, and we all deserve to pursue happiness. We all deserve to have equal opportunity in our nation. We deserve to live a life free of harassment, free of fear. We deserve to love the folks who we are drawn to love. We deserve to be able to build a family however we see fit, if it's our birth family or people that we choose to associate with. I believe that all of those things are equal and fundamental to our rights as human beings, regardless of the color of our skin. Now, related directly to the African American community, it would be naive and quite frankly offensive of me to sit here and say I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to fix this for the African American community, because I'm not African American. I don't live the life that you live. I don't have to face the same prejudices that you do and the same barriers that you do, or the same barriers that anyone in the 6th congressional district that's not of my Caucasian background faces. I don't know what it's like to live your life, but I do know that I want to be heard, and I do know that I'm going to be sent to Washington to be heard and to represent you, and I have no ulterior motives. I can't be bought. I'm not planning on staying in Washington very long. But what I want to do while I'm there is to make a significant change in the time that I have, to ensure that there is progress made as proof of concept, if nothing else, that progress can be made. So when I hand this off to the next generation or the next candidate that comes along, that they know that that change can be made. And it's going to be enabled by working with Representative McGarvey and with other like-minded progressive individuals to ensure that we are doing the outreach that we need to do, and we are listening as we need to listen, as you deserve to be listened to ensure that that can take place.
Thank you very much.
Hey, so what would you it's like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You've got an uphill, trail ahead of you to take out Andy Barr. So what would you say to somebody who's just kind of like, been a maybe moderate Republican voter and has gone along with Andy Barr? Why is Andy not the right choice this year? And I heard what you said about Project 2025 and being a firewall, and I completely concur. But it's like, you got to that's a lot of work to do in a stump speech to tell people about what Project 2025 is and why it's a threat and why Andy Barr is not up to that challenge, because he'll just rubber stamp whatever comes his way. But what's the kind of quick elevator pitch on why somebody who's supported Andy in the past should take a look at your candidacy?
Well, quite frankly, it's 12 years and $2 million. That's the time that we've given Andy Barr, and that's the salary that we've paid him, barring no other fringe benefits. 12 years and $2 million. And if you're still left sitting there November 4th in your head thinking, what has really been done on my behalf? I know, the banks have fewer regulations. I know I don't have the right to choose, and the government decides if I can have an abortion, if I need one or not, or if I can get medical care if I go to the emergency room, or if I have to drive to Illinois to get it. I know that, but what else has Andy Barr done for me? If you're still having that conversation in your head after 12 years and $2 million, and you believe that there is another way forward, I ask you to look at me and give me your vote one time. I'm not going to make a career out of politics. I have no ambition to be there more than 1 or 2 terms. I want to go there to Washington. I want to clear the backlog. I want to get the job done, and I'm going to come home and I'm going to hand this off to the next generation, because we've done enough screwing this up. I want to go there and fix what's broken and give it to the folks that are going to be impacted by this for the rest of their lives, and for my grandchildren to live with. If you like Social Security, if you like Medicare, I'm going to protect it. I'm going to enhance it. I'm going to make sure it's there for you and for your kids. If you like equal protection under the law, I'm going to be there to protect it. Andy Barr has already said that he won't. So give me your vote one time. That's all I ask for. And if you decide after 2 years that I've not done anything for you, or if I'm not the right candidate, bring me back home, because I deserve it. That's my elevator pitch to a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, or anyone on any end of this spectrum, because right now we don't have time to wait. We have to attack this now. And we don't have the luxury of giving Andy Barr another 2 years as a lame duck.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thanks. Any final thoughts, Randy? I know we've kept you long, but anything you want to leave our viewers with?
Well, it would be just that. We've talked a lot tonight before I came on, as well as when I've been on here, about what a crisis that we face as a country. We face these crises on many fronts. We've got government run amok with our reproductive rights and women's health care, and quite frankly, running amok in our privacy. We need to put check on that and ensure that that's not an issue going forward into the future. Government works. Government works well when it's properly funded and when it's run by people and representatives that are compassionate and empathetic towards communities that they live in and towards communities that they don't. I want to go to Washington to prove that we can make government work again, that we can get these facilities and these departments up and running with proper funding to ensure that the border crisis, which has been living on for years and years, is actually addressed by adjudication of cases in a timely manner. The list goes on and on. We could take 3 hours talking about all the different things that need to be fixed. But the simple thing is this: they can be fixed. All I'm asking is for one shot to do it. Andy Barr's already shown that he doesn't have much of an interest in it. This election isn't about Andy Barr anymore. The emperor has no clothes. We all know it. The election is going to be focused on, what do you want for your future? Do you want to have a Kentucky where your kids can grow up and start a family of their own? Do you want to have a Kentucky where you can have a granddaughter and not be worried that when she grows up, if something horrible happens to her, that she's not forced to run and hide in another state or another country? That's the questions that we should be asking ourselves this November. And I'm very appreciative of this venue to come on and talk about those. And I'm very appreciative of the support of everyone in our community that has reached out, because money doesn't make a campaign. It helps. It helps a whole heck of a lot. And if you'd like to donate, randycravens.com is a great place to do it. But Andy Barr's got all the money in the world, but he doesn't have the answers for Central Kentucky. And I think I do. So please, if you like what I have to say, if you plan on supporting me, please just, more than your money, your voice matters more than anything. Just reach out to your friends, your neighbors, your loved ones, and ask them, if nothing else, just to go to the website and see what I have to say. And that would be the one message that I would leave with everyone tonight. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Randy. Thanks for running. Thanks for getting your, I think, common sense message out there. And we absolutely appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your views.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. RandyCravens.com, people. And go ahead and make a donation, because I tell you what, you can't buy Facebook ads, digital ads, or TV ads with good intentions. So guy needs some resources if he's going to make sure that his candidacy is high enough profile so the folks know he's running, and that he's got a clear, I think, and compelling alternative to Andy Barr. All right, one final note. We have a new Kentucky tie to that story we had talked to earlier about Biden's travails. Kentucky's own George Clooney has now come out and said that Biden needs to step down and we need to have another candidate. And he listed a number of options, but one of them, of course, was our own beloved Andy Beshear. So at any rate, I think we got a call to action, and then Kimberly's going to close us out if her internet connection allows. This is an interesting one. There's a Project 2025 discussion group that has been started up. Misha Branscombe, former candidate and good troublemaker rather, has started a Facebook group to discuss Project 2025, to get the word out about it, what it means, how it's threatening our civil rights, how it's threatening our healthcare options, how it's threatening our environment. So if you are interested in having a conversation about Project 2025, getting yourself more educated about it, and figure out the right ways to fight back, you can join that Facebook group. I think there's kind of different areas throughout the Bluegrass where they're having conversations in person to do some organizing around it. Encourage everyone to check that out. If what you heard tonight or have been reading online has got you fired up and ready to fight back, there's a good space for it. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Kimberly to close us out.
Yes, it's been a great show this evening with Mr. Randy Cravens running for the 6th Congressional District for U.S. Congress. I think he's got a great chance, and he answered those questions so very well. But would want to tell you that Progress Kentucky is a 501c4 nonprofit organization, also affiliated with CAVE. Also, tonight, the production was done by our very own Annabel Nagel. Episode 168. Amazing episode 168. The theme song that you heard was by our very own Nate Orshan, and you can find out more about his music at natosongs.com, and that's NATO songs.com. And if you happen to miss us Do not fret, my pet. You can always listen to us, Spotify, iHeart, all the places where podcasts can be heard. And make sure that you give us a 5 on the review. It helps the algorithms, and we do need to get those likes up on our Facebook page, and share, share, share. It helps the cause and it allows people to know what's going on. Some of graphic design was by Couchfire Media, and that's couchfiremedia.com. You can go see more of their work on there. So we appreciate you staying with us tonight. We'll be back again next week, same time, same channel. Have a great rest of your week.